God never begins anything without finishing it first. This is a fundamental truth of how the divine operates. Before a woman was ever formed in the womb, her destiny was already complete in the mind of God. What she is walking through today is not the beginning of something new to God. It is simply the unfolding of what he has already completed. Heaven operates from the end to the beginning, not from the beginning to the end. When God begins a work in a woman's life, he does not start with experimentation or guesswork. He starts with a finished product and then moves her into alignment with it. This means that any season she is facing right now, whether it feels like delay, confusion, or preparation, is not accidental. It is strategic. The blessing that is coming her way is not being formed while she waits. It is already established, already spoken, already secured. Her responsibility is not to create it, but to come into agreement with it. Every detour, every silence from heaven, every disappointment or closed door is not a denial, but a divine redirection towards something already complete. This is why trust is essential. From a human perspective, it can look like God is taking too long or changing his mind. But in truth, he is simply navigating her through time toward a reality that already exists in eternity. When a woman begins to sense stirring in her spirit, unusual urgency, or shifts in her relationships or environment, she is not at the start of something. She is actually on the edge of divine manifestation. What looks like a beginning is really a delivery. God never launches without having first completed. The seed he places in her, whether it's an idea, a calling, a vision, or a desire, is the evidence that something finished is ready to emerge. Heaven never sends potential without purpose already wrapped inside. Therefore, when God begins to move, the woman can take confidence not in what she sees, but in the unseen reality that what is forming in her life is simply catching up to what God has already authored. Purpose precedes provision. In the order of the kingdom, God never sends resources before revealing reason. When a woman is about to be blessed with something big, the first thing that is activated is not what she needs, but why she needs it. Heaven does not supply based on want or emotion. It supplies according to assignment. Before provision shows up, God makes sure purpose is understood. The vision must be in place before the vessel is filled. This is why many women feel the stirring of a greater calling long before they see any material support to pursue it. The purpose is the seed that attracts the provision. When God places a burden on a woman's heart, when he calls her into a new dimension of influence, leadership, or service, the purpose behind it begins to unlock resources. But those resources do not appear until the purpose is clearly embraced. A woman waiting for blessing must first ask herself, what is this for? God's blessings are not for comfort alone. They're for impact, for stewardship, for fulfilling a divine agenda on earth. Provision is a sign. It follows purpose like a shadow. And when purpose is unclear, provision will often remain hidden. Not because it does not exist, but because God does not waste resources where there is no direction. But this is why some doors only open after the woman takes a step in the direction of her calling. Heaven responds to movement in purpose. God funds what he authors. If the vision is from him, the resources must come. That's why when she sees divine provision begin to gather, support, connections, opportunities, even financial breakthroughs, it is not the beginning of purpose, but a confirmation that she's already aligned with it. The provision comes to empower the purpose. not to define it. Therefore, she must never pursue the provision first. She must press into the purpose, and the provision will be added unto her. This is how the kingdom operates. First purpose, then provision. Seasons of transition are signs of promotion. When a woman finds herself in a place of uncertainty, where what used to feel familiar no longer fits, and the future feels unclear, it is often not a sign of loss, but of divine movement. God speaks through shifts. He speaks through changes that unsettle the comfort zone and disrupt routines. Transition is the language of heaven, signaling that something is about to be elevated. Before every promotion in the kingdom, there is a season of transition. It is not punishment, it is preparation. In these moments, a woman might feel as if everything is being stripped away. Relationships shift, opportunities dry up. The environment that once affirmed her now feels silent or even resistant. These are not random events. They're indication that the current season has expired. God uses transition to pull her away from what is good so he can place her into what is greater. It is often uncomfortable because promotion requires separation. He must separate her from the old so he can position her for the new. The wilderness moments, those in-between stages where nothing seems to be happening, are where God does some of his deepest work. It's where character is refined, vision is clarified, and identity is strengthened. The transition is the classroom for promotion. What looks like confusion is often divine reordering. What feels like delay is strategic alignment. During these seasons, a woman may feel invisible, but in the spirit, she is being repositioned. Heaven is rearranging circumstances, closing some doors while quietly opening others behind the scenes. She is being lifted, not lost. So when she begins to notice recurring patterns of change, internal stirring, or a restlessness she can't explain, she must not be afraid. These are not signs of breakdown. They are signs of breakthrough. God promotes through transition. It is the way he uproots her from lesser soil to replant her in a higher place of growth, responsibility, and influence. The shaking is not the end. It is the evidence that she is on the edge of something greater than what she has known. Isolation often precedes elevation. When God is preparing to elevate a woman, one of the first signs she may experience is a divine distancing. People she once depended on may fall silent. Doors that used to open with ease may suddenly shut, and the places that once felt comfortable may begin to feel foreign. This is not rejection, it is redirection. God pulls her away not to harm her, but to consecrate her. Elevation in the kingdom is not built on popularity, but on purity and purpose. And before God can elevate her publicly, he often deals with her privately. In seasons of isolation, distractions are removed so that revelation can increase. The voices of others become quiet so that the voice of God can become clear. It is in the stillness, in the silence, and in the solitude where God often downloads the next level of vision and instruction. Just as a seed must be buried in the dark soil before it breaks forth and grows, so must a woman sometimes be hidden before she is revealed. God never wastes isolation. He uses it to refine motives, stretch faith, and build a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of what is coming. Isolation is not evidence of being forgotten. It is often the proof for being chosen. When God isolates, he is not punishing, he is preparing. He is removing her from noise so he can increase her sensitivity to spiritual things. He may remove certain people to break her dependency on human validation and draw her deeper into divine alignment. It may feel lonely, but it is sacred. The wilderness is where prophets are trained, where leaders are shaped, and where visionaries are born. It is the crucible of character, the forge of faith, and the chamber where purpose is solidified. When a woman finds herself alone, not by her own doing, but by divine design, she must not rush to fill the space with noise or distraction. That isolation could be the womb of her next assignments. God is setting her apart to raise her up. What feels like separation is actually sanctification. The next stage of her life may require a version of her that can only be formed in solitude. In the kingdom, elevation is not about being seen first. It's about being prepared first. And preparation often begins in isolation. Pressure reveals potential. When a woman begins to feel the weight of life pressing against her from every side, emotional strain, spiritual warfare, increasing demands, or internal tension, it is often a divine signal that there is more inside of her than what has yet been revealed. God allows pressure not to destroy, but to draw out hidden capacity. Diamonds are formed under intense pressure. And the same principle applies spiritually. What seems like an attack may actually be an awakening. The pressure is not the problem. It's the proof that something powerful is trying to emerge. In the kingdom, pressure is never wasted. It is used as a tool of refinement and revelation. God applies it with precision, not as a random force, but as a purposeful instrument. When pressure increases, it forces out what's been dormant. It causes a woman to pray with new depth, to lead with new courage, to speak with new authority. The environment around her may feel chaotic, but inside something sacred is breaking open. The tension, the opposition, the delays, these are not barriers, but birthing pains. They announce the arrival of something greater. Often, a woman won't fully know her strength until it is tested. She won't realize how much faith she carries until her back is against the wall. She won't recognize the calling on her life until she's pushed beyond her comfort. God allows pressure to reveal what comfort conceals. The discomfort is designed to drive her into alignment with her true potential. The moment she feels overwhelmed may be the exact moment God is stretching her capacity to carry the blessing that is on the way. Pressure also reveals what she truly believes. It strips away pretense and surfaces the core of her convictions. It exposes where trust is genuine and where it needs to grow. In those moments when it feels like everything is tightening, God is not abandoning her, He is awakening her. The woman she is becoming cannot be shaped in ease. She must be forged in fire, refined in resistance, and empowered through endurance. What's been revealed is strength, resilience, and untapped ability that only pressure could bring to the surface. Faith will be tested before fulfillment. When God prepares to release a significant blessing into a woman's life, He first tests the integrity of her belief. Not because He doubts her, but because the weight of what she's about to carry requires a deeper level of trust. Fulfillment does not come to those who merely hope. It comes to those who endure the proving of their faith. And this testing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in delays that challenge her patience, in silence that stretches her confidence, or in circumstances that seem to contradict the very promises she's holding on to. But each of these moments is strategic. God does not test faith to fail it. He tests it to strengthen it. Before the promise is placed in her hands, it must first be planted in her heart. And that seed of promise must grow through seasons of uncertainty, watered by prayer and held in place by persistence. God watches how she responds when nothing changes. He listens to what she says when no one is watching. He looks at how she acts when others receive what she's still believing for. The test is not about the outcome. It's about the condition of her spirit. Can she trust him when there's no evidence? Can she worship while waiting? Can she obey when it costs her something? These are the questions that faith must answer before fulfillment arrives. And once that testing is complete, she emerges not just ready to receive the blessing, but ready to sustain it. Because in the kingdom, it's not just about what God gives. It's about who he's shaping her to be as she waits. The test is often the classroom for the fulfillment. It teaches her endurance, resilience, spiritual maturity, and unshakable dependence on God. What may look like a delay is really divine timing wrapped in wisdom. God allows the testing so that when the fulfillment comes, she will not only be grateful, she will be prepared. And it's often in the last stretch of testing that the blessing draws near. When things seem most difficult, when faith feels stretched to its limit, that is often the signal that fulfillment is right at the door. God doesn't tease, he trains. He's not distant. He's deliberate. If a woman is facing intense testing, it may be the clearest sign that fulfillment is closer than she thinks. Each conclusion, when God is about to bless a woman with something big, he doesn't just hand her the blessing, he prepares her to carry it. The signs we've explored are not coincidences. They are divine indicators that heaven is moving on her behalf. The isolation, the pressure, the testing, the transition, each one is a whisper from God saying, get ready. A woman who understands these signs won't be discouraged by them. She'll be empowered. You'll recognize that purpose is unfolding, faith is being refined, and the promise is nearing fulfillment. So if you find yourself in the middle of any of these signs, don't run from them. Lean in. Because the blessing you've been waiting for isn't just coming, it's already on the way.